Hello, welcome to the sofa session. Now, as you might see, I'm not Samantha Blues. I'm Gary Blues. I'm Samantha's husband and salon manager for the last 20 years with salon groups and area reps. So Sam is not feeling too well. But this sofa session is all about the man I'm going to introduce to you is Paul Davies. And Paul is going to be talking everything about financials. And as salon owners, we need to know to make us profitable and keep us actually working. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Paul, and he's going to tell you a bit about himself and what he's doing tonight. So, Paul, over to you.
Thanks, Gary. Great to be here. I'm hoping that what I'm going to do tonight is, while adding value, talking about money, talking about pricing, that I won't be too dull and too dry. I've been a salon owner in the past. I was a salon owner for over 25 years. I closed my business 2 years ago. 2 years ago at the end of June, and that was based around staffing requirements rather than anything else. And now what I'm looking to do is help other salon owners, if I can pass on some of my knowledge, some of my experience over the years, and it helps other salon owners to not make some of the mistakes I made 25 years ago. That would be great. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about pricing tonight. And pricing, I think, is, if you hang out with the How to Cut It crew, and listen to the hair show, you'll see it keeps bubbling up all the time. There's a constant kind of question surrounding pricing in the hairdressing industry, and we hear a lot of things that seem to be holding people back. And what I'd really like to do is I'd like to give a little bit of clarity. Some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight is covered in a PDF. You can download that at the end of the show. If you've got any questions, and you're a platform member, which you must be if you're watching this, DM me. I'm easy to find, and I can deal with kind of like individual stuff if there's any questions you've got. But in the meantime, do you want me to kick things off, Gary?
Yes, on you go. Yeah, remember we've got a whole range of hairdressers. So we've got freelancers, we've got small salon owners, we've got large salon owners, salon groups, and if you can take any information that is going to help you, then that's got to be good. On you go. And if I've got questions in, I'll butt in and I'll ask you those questions.
Yeah, super. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with that. So there are a few topics that I really, really would like to cover. Is the biggest one of all is covering costs. There's planning for the future, establishing your position in the market, which I think is quite important. The big one that keeps getting talked about a lot. We want to raise standards in the industry, and so how do we look at that? And how do we look at our professional status? And of course, the dirty one that nobody likes to talk about, making a profit. I'm a big fan of that. So when it comes to pricing, I know that in my years in the industry, I've spent time with some great business thinkers, some people who've been ultra successful, some people who have had some kind of mind-blowing ideas for me at the time, which when I look back, I always think, oh, blimey, that was a bit stupid of you, Paul, for not seeing that yourself. But that's often what happens. So there are thousands and thousands of pricing strategy models out there, and I think in the modern time today, we've got access to so many resources, and it shouldn't be that difficult to curate a price list. And if you have a look around, I think you'll find most of them have got real value. And I hope you find the same with what we're going to talk about tonight. But for me, I think the main drivers are the two things. It's covering costs and it's making a profit. And I think we've all had that situation where we've gone to the accountant at the end of the year and You sat there while he's droned on for half an hour telling you about where your money's disappeared. So, and then at the end of it, and says, "But of course, you now owe the tax man X £1,000," and you're sitting there scratching your head, thinking, "Geez, where's the money for that?" Because
I
haven't
think
got it.
passion sometimes, the passion for hairdressing, sometimes you forget that there needs to be a profit. Yeah. And
Sure.
passion and profit, once they're aligned, will go together very successfully. But sometimes hairdressers put passion in front of profit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's another one of those things. If you don't understand kind of like sort of where all the money's going, you can't really understand how you want to price that thing that you've got in front of you, and then add on the bit where you make some money as well. I think for most hairdressers, and I'd be very surprised to come across more than 5 in 100 who didn't just start their salon because they were an incredibly good, incredibly passionate, incredibly busy hairdresser and thought, I know, I need to open my own shop. And then they do, and then they just carry on being the busiest person in their own shop, working all the hours to feed all the hungry mouths in their business, and probably get to the end of the year and then not. But, that's where the strategy comes in. But
we've had a wee message and a reaffirmation from Colette. Hi, Colette. You need strategy. Accountants are there to tell your tax position, not how to operate your business. As a salon owner and an accountant herself, she knows all too well where salon owners go wrong. And you've got to collate. And this is where platform's great. You can go, oh, right, there's yourself giving out all this advice, and then we've got other people there that are going, well, I've got experience in that, and I could help. So they're there. The professionals are there to do their job, not your job.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, for a lot of salon owners, I think because we're not perceived as being professional, and that is one of the issues I think where that we're seeing come out of. It's constantly seen as a low price industry. It's never seen as being a professional thing. I mean, accountants know how to charge. Why on earth Colette gave up accountancy for hairdressing? I mean, anyway, only joking. Look, there are lots of calls in the industry for things. I mean, I think professionalism in itself is a non-negotiable behaviour in our industry, and I think everyone would agree on that. The other thing, we're constantly looking for state registration. I know Colette's working really, really hard with the government to get us to a point where we're seen more as a professional body. And I get that completely. But until we start behaving in a professional business way, I don't think that the outside world will really kind of cotton onto that.
Very true. I mean, in the States, they're all registered. I mean, you are putting chemicals on people's head. The regulation is needed. But what you're saying there is, I think that hairdressers are very, very passionate, artistic people, but they're also required to wear so many hats that those hats sometimes distract them from doing their actual job. They are professionals. You go to the doctor with a sore throat and he says penicillin, and you go, no thanks, I'll just use the aspirin or the paracetamol. So. Listen to hairdressers. That's why you go to a hairdresser. They know best.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it brings us on to how do I choose a pricing strategy? Well, I don't think it matters whether you're a new business and you're just starting out, or whether you're an existing business who's perhaps not as financially secure as they would like to be. Now's the time to think about re-looking at how you price and why you price. I mean, it's quite simple, really. It's kind of like you want more money in than the money that goes out. And I think that's really the key point.
Yeah.
If your prices are too low, you're not going to make enough money to cover your basic costs. There's also the counter argument that if you've just arbitrarily plucked a high price out of the sky, people aren't going to buy into that either. So the pricing and the costing is so important, or the costing before you actually even think about your pricing is so important to how you curate your price list for your business.
And your PDF explains a lot of that as well, and how to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And so there are some little examples in there about how you would find out, not how you would find out, but certainly how you narrow down from your big list of expenses and then bring it all down to an actual cost per minute, and which is crucial because actually everything we do is based on time.
Yeah,
of course. And even the most basic of things that we allocate a time slot. I'm sure a lot of the salons out there, or a lot of the stylists out there, even freelancers now, we've got apps that we can use that will kind of like we run our diary from, and it'll give us reports. We can track our KPIs, and everything goes into that diary has a time allocation, a time slot. And so you need to know
that, Paul, the actual time, because there is such a variation out there. So you've got, and you're trying to get your costing down to £1, but I know salons that do a wash, cut, and blow dry in 30 minutes. The industry norm is 45 minutes, and we do it within an hour. So there's a big variation there, and you've got to take that into consideration when how long's your services.
Yeah. So you can take as long over your service as you like, as long as you know how much it's costing you to deliver each of those services for a minute. Once you know how much it's costing you for a minute, it then doesn't matter whether you're spending 15 minutes on it or an hour and a half. You just have to multiply it.
It's going to be profitable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also as well, there comes a point where honesty comes into it as well. And you've got to be honest, I think, primarily with yourself, as well as with your customers and with your team about what your business actually brings to the market. What do you bring as a salon to the market? And that is so important. Once you've made that decision, and you've told everybody that you're going to do it, you have to deliver it. It's your value proposition, and it's really, really important. And that value proposition might be quite low, or it might be quite high. But whatever it is, make sure you deliver it, because, again, it will be priced in because of the free things that you give away during the service.
So let me ask you this, Paul, is that for salons and salon owners, normally they've got tiered pricing, depending on their staff levels and qualifications. And so do we break that down to a staff? Because if they're doing a wash, cut, and blow dry, they can charge more, which means that they're going to be profitable, but we've got to pay them more. So how do we incorporate tiered pricing or charging and the profitability of that into your pricing structure per minute?
So this is where it gets fun and exciting, and you've jumped straight in beyond the sexy maths that we can fall in love with into the dark maths. But
I did see a bit.
So basically, once we've got a price per minute, and so basically your price per minute. What we're going to look at to come down to that figure is all of the costs that we've got. When we turn the door in the lock, we turn the lights on, the water's already heating, we've got the insurance, we've turned the music on. All of these things, they all have a cost.
Yeah.
And so when we add all of those costs up and we work out how many hours the salon's actually open for, and we narrow it down into a cost per minute. Now, if you've got somebody on a tiered, if you've got a tiered price list,
structure.
then once you've got your price per minute and you've times it by your half an hour or your 60 minutes, whatever it is, that's when you have to look at the added things that we want to achieve. So those added things might be what we're going to add on for that. So we know that we've got a star employee, and so that we're going to charge more for them, and therefore they're going to earn more commission. Okay. Yeah. So we have our baseline price for a cut and blow dry, and then we add on our extras to that. If in the same way as you would if you had someone in there doing hair extensions and the hair was costing you 500 quid, you're not just going to go with your price per minute, because it's not going to be enough to cover the cost of goods. So cost of goods or cost of excellence or experience, they're added to our pricing. So let's just say, for argument's sake, me and Dom spoke about a figure that's £1 a minute. It's just kind of like a ballpark thing. And I would love to see if anyone goes through this pricing workbook that I've produced and comes out with a number of price per minute. I'd love to see how many are quite close to £1. I imagine they are. So let's just say it's £60 for a cut and blow dry.
Yeah.
But that's for Tom, he's just gone on the floor. It's his first year on the floor. But we've also got Sally. And Sally's been a lead hairdresser now for the last 10, 15 years. We can't charge £60 for Sally. But we're going to charge more for her. We're not going to charge £60 for Sally and then take money off what we charge for Tom, because otherwise he's working at a loss. He's costing the business money. So in a tiered structure, we would add. So once you've got your baseline figure, we add. And it's just really crucial that we get our baseline figure right.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we're talking about that, again, it's your baseline figure isn't just your costs. Your baseline figure has to include plans for the future. It has to include a provision for HMRC. It has to include your budget for education. How much do you want to spend on education? Some salons, they'll buy in education on a monthly basis. Some it might be 3 or 4 times a year. Some it might be once a year. Whatever it is, whatever your budget is, it goes in to your cost per minute.
And remember there, if you've got a star employee that takes maternity leave, then you're like, whoa, how are we going to cope with this? And things like that, and your products, again, have got to be taken into consideration, you know.
You have to have contingency. And that's why I think, you know, that list, it can go on and on and on and on. And even to things that might only cost you £5 a month and you think it doesn't matter. It matters.
Of course. You know, Colette's saying there, you're blind. If you don't know your numbers, you're working blind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then they're saying that there is many hairdressing businesses competing in the middle ground for pricing structures, and there's maybe too much, and they don't specialize and go, you know what, I'm worth that, and I'm going to go for that. But if you don't know your numbers, you're working blind, and
so. You know, I've got friends in the industry who I know someone who runs a quite cheap value-based budget salon, and I've also got a friend who runs a really luxury hair experience brand, and they both make a profit.
Yeah,
but that's because they both know their numbers. And absolutely, Colette, you're 100% right. I don't know why you're not sitting there actually, because you've got the accountancy background, but it's so true. Working blind is one of the worst things you can do, because all that happens is you keep stumbling into things because you didn't see it coming. And so, yes, your numbers are crucial. A lot of hairdressers, it's not why they opened a shop. And so they're often playing catch up. But the good news is it doesn't mean you can't start that tomorrow.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't just because you haven't been doing it doesn't mean you can never do it.
It's
Tomorrow's as good a day as any to
financials
start.
is a bit like the customer service where you get midgie bites, and nobody likes midgie bites, but they're just tiny little things just taken away, and they will eventually drive you away. Or you get a lion bite, something so big the tax man goes, "Oh, you owe me this now." So both are just as crucial. Midgie bites, little things. If you don't know your numbers, all these little things that's just eating away at your profit. They're just as crucial as that big lion bite.
Yeah, and one of the worst things I think, and again, when these topics have come up on the hair show or when they've come up in forums, it's always, oh well, that's all right for you if you live here or there, and it's like we can't charge that much in our town. We there's so many people do what we do, blah 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 blah. But the problem with that is it's a confirmation bias thing. One person says it and people start believing it without actually researching it. But the fact still remains. Just because everyone else is charging a fee, it doesn't mean that they've got their numbers right either. And if that fee isn't covering your costs, allowing for future growth, allowing for the fact that you're never 100% busy, no matter how good you are, because no shows happen. People cancel at the last minute. People downgrade a service when they're in the chair. It's like nobody's 100% busy all the time. And so by the time you factored in not just your costs, but the liabilities in how the product, how the service goes on the day or doesn't go at all because whatever, or someone rings in sick. Unless you're covering your costs, I don't care what anybody else charges.
Mm-hmm.
You can't afford to work for less than your costs. Just can't. You're better off not doing it at all.
Yeah, you were saying that a lot of people they don't know that, and they're just working because they enjoy hairdressing and they're so passionate about it, and and they're like they're not even paying themselves. And we've got a hairdresser that actually gives tick, and you're like, what? But she's really busy, so it's like, wow, but you've got to factor in the staff holidays and your own holidays,
Well, yeah, again, that's another big one I talk about in the worksheet. So we base all the figures on an 11-month year. Yeah, so people base their figures over a 12-month year. There isn't exactly
one. Yeah,
because it's like everyone's going to have time off.
Yeah,
especially if you're paying them to have time off.
Exactly.
They're going to have time off.
Yeah,
self-employed people might say, "Oh, well, I don't have any time." Well, you should factor it in, make it affordable. Include it in your pricing, so next time you go on holiday, you're not stressing. You've covered it. And you're paying yourself for that time while you're sitting on the beach in Barbados, drinking Mai Tais at $15 a shot, whatever. Because they're the important things. So again, working on probably only 75% utilization, working on an 11-month year, working on the fact that you've built in a budget for education, you've built in a budget for HMRC, you've built in a budget for repairs and renewals, contingency. Who knows what's going to happen?
Is that
next.
available, or is that mentioned in your PDF, Paul, about the 11?
100%.
Oh, great, brilliant. Right,
it's in the figures. I think I could have a look, but I think it's about page 6. But anyway, so. It's only 8 pages, guys. Don't panic, and a lot of it's just me waffling on. So don't worry. But yeah, it's look. It never ceases. It never ceases to amaze me where people are getting to a point where they are running. They're running behind all the time. So, and when I say that, we're known to accountants as a cash industry, which doesn't mean we all get paid in cash. It means that we get paid on the day. There's no invoicing.
Yeah.
We just get paid when we get paid. But of course, our suppliers give us an invoice and we haven't got to pay it for 30 days. And if we forget, because actually I've got to pay Sally and Tom and I haven't really got enough money left over to pay the stock bill as well. And then I think to myself, oh, it's all right, L'Oreal can afford it. And but at some point, so we're always robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so then you get on this like hamster wheel of you can't ever stop because you're always behind. A business fails when it runs out of cash. And if somebody walked into most hairdressing businesses and said, right, stop working until you paid everyone and you're up to date, you can't work on, most salons will close. And it's like, I don't want to say that like a doom monger, but it's just a fact. And it, I was going to say it's not their fault. It is nobody else's fault, but
because they haven't got the figures, they've not got.
No, and I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here, kind of running people down for not knowing their figures. I managed to rob Peter to pay Paul for at least 12 to 15 years in business. And it was only when I started to educate myself and I did some work with a guy called Marcus Allen, who was the general manager of Urban Retreat in Harrods. I like that guy. He's like business ninja. Did a load of work with 365 back in the day as well. And actually started to go on these things. I remember the first day that I went on a 365 thing and they were talking about break even. And and he said, like, before we start this, I want to tell you now. He said, it's not unusual for someone in the room to burst into tears at the end of the day because they realise how far behind they are. And it's just like, and you think, that's ridiculous. And then at the end of the day, somebody bursts into tears.
Well, I'm just, like Colette has saying about the contingency planning and things like that, but COVID proved that. Yeah, which is very true. You can't. There's some things that you just can't put in a contingency plan, and that for hairdressers was the make or break. And that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we were really lucky with COVID as far as financials were concerned. It was always tight coming back. It was always hard.
Yeah.
But we'd built great strategies and we were able to implement them. We weren't expecting 3 of them, I'll be honest. But yeah, we had great strategies in place to cope with what was coming next. What we weren't really equipped to deal with, and looking back now, I can see it quite clearly. And that was the shift in the way that the people who worked with us wanted to work, and I was too slow to adapt to a new way of working, hybrid working, more self-employment opportunities. I wanted to offer. I thought offering people that very, very inclusive protection, like we'd offered them through the COVID period, and using the furlough scheme, and keeping them kind of protected and keeping them informed. And so that was our big thing. The money that wasn't ever the problem. So we closed our business with money in the bank.
Yeah. It was different for different salons, because of their makeup for limited companies, or they were sole traders and things like that, and when they'd started their business, so it did affect different. One of the questions we've got is about the retail and how that affects your baseline. Should that be separate or not?
Thorny issue there, Gary, because I know there's lots of people who will disagree with what I'm about to say. It should be run as a completely separate entity in terms of where the money comes from and goes to. So it should be financially self-supporting. And again, why a lot of salon owners don't see value in retail. I mean, it's getting off the price topic a little bit, but why they don't see value in retail often is because they don't separate it out. They don't see the true profit. It should just be pure cream. There's very little. Once you've made the initial investment, which if you've priced right, you had the money sitting there in your profit budget that you wanted to buy in a new product line, and then run it separately. So it's self-sufficient. So once you've made the investment, every time you sell some, part of that goes to pay for a replacement. The other part goes to create
your profit into your profit pot.
Yeah, and then so what so often happens is someone will invest £500, £5,000, whatever it is, and it just goes into the till with everything else, and it goes into the bank with everything else, and then it gets eaten away by the hungry monster that is your underperforming pricing strategy, and then they think, "Oh, we haven't made any money out of retail."
And then obviously some of them don't want to actually consider retail, and it's not retail. It's recommendations. It's not retail.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, as I like to call it, Gary, it's free money.
Right.
It is. It's free money. Yeah. You've got someone who's come to you with a problem. This is so off topic, and this is why I always overrun on things like this, guys. So, you've got someone who's come to you with a problem, and you're offering them solutions to their problem. That's all you're doing. I agree with you. It's not a sales thing at all. It's helping people. But if in helping people, they also help to pay for a nice cheeky holiday or a weekend away, Gary, then we don't mind that, do we?
Well, we put it into the profit pot first, and then we divvy it up.
Sure.
Yeah.
End of the year. And it's like all these things. You shouldn't touch it till the end of the year.
So,
but,
for people that's not watching this live and they've watched it recorded, would you have any objections for them contacting you and just putting their questions and any clarifications that's maybe not included in the PDF where you can help them? They can DM you directly.
Although it's an 8-page document, Gary, I don't think it's a completely exhaustive piece of work around pricing. Yeah. It's a starting point. And I think that every business is different. Everybody has a different need. Everybody needs to adopt the strategy to suit them. If it's a maths question, if I've got any of the numbers wrong, please let me know. They're fictitious, but yeah, absolutely. DM me through platform, and we'll either have a call or I'll message you back. If you've got a question that I can't answer because I don't know, I'll ask Colette and she'll help me, and then I'll let you know.
Yeah, it's a wealth of knowledge on here, So yeah,
and that's why we're here. And look, you know what? We've got amazing people involved in platform who do a very, very different delivery to me. People like David Drew. I mean, he's a legend of a coach. I mean, it's like he's got to be one of the best in the country by far, if not, I don't know, globally. And David's insanely good at this sort of thing. And it's like I'm kind of like in a position where I can be that person who, when you really, really don't want a business coach, but you need a little bit of help and someone to encourage and someone to support and maybe point you in the right direction and hold you accountable for things that you say you're going to do and make sure that you see them through. That's kind of where I see myself fitting in, So, if anyone wants to get in touch, ask a question. There's no such thing as a silly question.
Yeah.
No such thing at all.
I totally agree. Yeah. Right. Right. One second. I'll just kind of. Samantha, you need to turn off. Obviously looking in there, checking up on hubby.
She's making sure you haven't got the pub, Gary. That's what she's doing.
Deary me. AI. Right. So if there was one piece of advice, one thing that people can take away, just kind of starting to round this up. We've got maybe about 5 minutes. What can we do? Or what can the person do? Right?
So it's about what you don't do. And this is possibly the most important thing of all. Whatever you do, do not overcomplicate the pricing structure too much, because clients don't understand it. If it's taken you like 3.5 weeks of all your spare time putting it together, it's not going to be clear to them. Don't start a panic if you come up against some negativity. The best way to avoid that negativity is be completely transparent and have a strategy for delivering your new pricing to your team. Your team really needs to be on board with it. To your clients, give them plenty of notice. And it's just kind of like, you've sat down and worked it out. And if you still want it, or if they still want to be able to come into the salon in 6 months or 6 years' time, they need to understand this is the price that we need you to pay. Otherwise, we can't continue to do what we do. Yeah. Discounting. If you're going to discount, you have to have a discounting strategy. It can't just be an ad hoc thing or go on for too long. So, I mean, if you haven't got a strategy, don't discount. Okay. The biggest thing of all, and this is the one takeaway, if anybody wants one piece of advice that they should carry through with this pricing, and that is, whatever you do, do not apologize. When you're telling your clients, do not apologize for the fact that you've had to put them up because this and because that. That's not the point. I've had a look at the numbers, I've had a look at the data, and we really need to implement these changes now, because if not, there's a chance that we won't be here next year. And I know you guys want us to be here. We want to be bigger. We want to be better. We want to be stronger. And that's why I've made this decision to put the pricing up now.
Yeah. Saying about the example that you have to add added value rather than discount, negotiate with other businesses to help your clients, that you can give something that your clients want, but the businesses want as well. And that's going to help, because if you lose one person, one client, and if all salons lose, if you lose more than 15% of your retention is higher than 15%, then you've got to look at it. You've got a natural retention rate that you've got to be aware of. But one client is worth hundreds, possibly even thousands, or 1,000 and plus per year.
There is, but there is another way of looking at it as well, Gary. And if you're a really, really busy salon and you're just not actually making the right sort of money, or you're actually really not making any money at all, and it's like, if you have to put your price up 50%, you can afford to lose 30% of your clients. And the new ones that will come and fill that gap, they didn't know what the old price was anyway, so they don't care. Yeah. So that's it. And it's I always used to say to my team, I don't remember Prada ever apologising for the price of a handbag.
Don't tell my wife that. Right there.
I've had loads of husbands.
I have to go that's why I'm going to Turkey this year.
That's right. Look, if you do the hard work, and maybe it's the boring work, I don't know. I grew to love the numbers. The numbers excite me now. So, but once you've done that bit, and that what you're doing is building for your future and it's building for your team's future, it's kind of like you have to be proud. To be proud when you roll that new price list out, and you can look your client straight in the eye, because you didn't just pull a figure out of the air. The amount of times I've gone on a course and said, what you should do is go back to your salon tomorrow and put £5 on the cost of a service. Yeah. Why? Well, how are you going to justify that to a client? If someone asks me about my pricing, I can show them, and I would gladly show them what my costs are and what I expect to earn. There's a lot of EPOS or the electronic point of sale systems that actually can break that down for you. If not, there's the good old Excel spreadsheets. But there is systems out there that will break these things down for you. Yeah. Good old piece of paper and a pencil,
Yep.
Gary. What's this electronic gadgetry you talk of?
I'm
What wizardry is this?
Yeah, it's just happening, Paul. It's just happening.
Is it? It's a new thing coming in.
Right. Well, we've just posted up the sofa session pricing PDF for you. I'm going to wrap this up. A final word for you, my man.
Thanks to you, Gary, for stepping in. I hope Samantha gets well soon. And thanks to Don for creating platform. I think it's superb. Spread the word amongst everyone that you know in the industry, and let's raise everybody up, because that's
stronger together, pal. Stronger together.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Well, hope everybody loved this. Thanks to all the questions, especially Colette. And like I say, we will be back. Well, I might not be back. I'll be behind the camera. Samantha will be back. And, well, I'm sure we're going to be speaking to you in the future as well, Paul.
Great.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, everybody. And like I say, get on platform and download that PDF. Right, bye.